What is going on, everybody? This video is pretty much going to be a continuation from my last video. And in my last video, I talked about the PlayStation Pro and why I feel Sony made the right move by not including the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray player into the PlayStation Pro. I felt that Sony made the smart move there. Also in that video, I briefly talked about the Xbox Scorpio and why I think it's not really going to be that successful. So, if you haven't watched that video yet, I highly recommend you check out that video. But in this video, we're going to get into more detail on why I truly think the Xbox Scorpio is not going to be that successful. And yes, I truly believe that. Based on what I currently know about the console, and based on what I know from past history in gaming, I honestly think that the Xbox Scorpio is pretty much doomed to fail. Now, I know some of you might be thinking that I'm happy about this, but that is not the case at all. I don't like being negative about this stuff. I'm being a realist. I want all the consoles to be great. I want all the companies to make great games. But there comes a point when you just have to be realistic about things. And as much as I don't want to be negative about the Scorpio, I just truly believe that this thing is going to fail based on what I already know about the console. Now, you're probably thinking, well, how much do you really know about the console? They haven't really said much about the console. And yes, that's exactly the point. A lot of people right now are pretty much declaring victory for the Xbox Scorpio over the PlayStation Pro. But in reality, there's a lot we don't know about this console. There's a lot of specs about this console that have not been revealed yet. The only thing that's been revealed so far from Microsoft is that it's got true 4K gaming. Now, I don't know what they mean by true 4K gaming. I don't really know. I'm not acting like a 4K expert. I'm far from a 4K expert. I actually don't own anything 4K. So, I don't know what they mean by true 4K gaming. It's got 6 teraflops of power, 320 gigabytes of memory bandwidth, and 8 CPU cores. They're saying that the Xbox Scorpio is going to be the most powerful console ever. When I see these things, you know what the first thing that pops into my head is? The price. That is the one thing that I think is going to kill this console. Is that this console is going to be extremely expensive. I think Sony did the smart move by removing the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray drive from the PlayStation Pro because they lowered the cost of their console. But we know that the Xbox Scorpio is going to have that 4K Blu-ray drive because the Xbox One S that's out right now has a 4K Blu-ray drive. So, to me, it's common sense that the Scorpio is going to have the same thing. Now, is it going to have a really good 4K Blu-ray drive? Because I'm under the assumption that there's good ones and bad ones, because I was looking up prices for 4K Blu-ray players, and there's some that are cheap and some that are expensive. So, I'm assuming there's like a level of quality of these drives. So, I'm just going to go out on a limb. Since Microsoft is saying that it's going to have true 4K gaming, that they're going to put the most expensive and most powerful 4K drive into this console. And that's going to be expensive. The 8 CPU cores and the 6 teraflops. Now, I'm not claiming that I'm a technical wizard, because I'm not. But to me, that just sounds expensive. Everything that we already know about this console just screams like all of our money is going to disappear from our wallets for this thing. And that's the thing. That's all we do know. but there's a lot of specs that we don't know. And I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that because it's got all the specs that we do know, they're going to need to have complementary components to complement these specs. So that's going to include more high-end parts. So at the end of the day, I truly think that this console is going to be extremely expensive. And if there's one thing that we know about gamers, is that the first thing they look at when it comes to a gaming console is the price. What is one of the reasons why Sony was really successful with the PlayStation 4 over the Xbox One? It was because the PlayStation 4 launched at $100 cheaper than the Xbox One. That is one of the main reasons why people chose the PlayStation 4 over the Xbox One. There was a lot of people that didn't own a PS3 last gen, but then they jumped to the PS4 because the Xbox One was $100 more. And there were other little reasons, but I'm willing to bet that was the main reason. And you remember when I was talking about history earlier? That history is doomed to repeat itself? Let's go back 10 years ago. 10 years ago, 2006. What console launched that year that was extremely expensive, that had high-end components in it, and it launched with a new type of media drive? That was the PlayStation 3. And a lot of people did not buy the PlayStation 3 because it launched at a very high price. And one of the main reasons it did launch at the high price was because it had that new Blu-ray drive, and it had that cell technology. It made the console expensive, and despite the fact that the 360 had just a regular DVD drive, and it had weaker components, a lot of people went to the 360. Mainly because of the price. The price is very important, and I'm sorry, I think that this Xbox Scorpio is going to launch at an obscenely high price. Honestly, I don't see this console being cheaper than $600. I don't. I think it's going to be in the $600, $700 range. And I could be wrong. I could be wrong, because we still have a long ways to go before the Scorpio is out. But based on what has already been told to us by Microsoft, I just don't see how this console can be affordable. I just don't. And another thing why I don't think it's going to be that successful. Phil Spencer has gone on record, and he has stated that the Xbox Scorpio is not going to have any exclusives. That it's going to be pretty much launching alongside with the Xbox One, meaning they're not going to leave Xbox One users in the dust. So, he's also said, honestly, that unless you have a 4K television, then the Scorpio is pretty much going to be useless to you. I mean, I've been very complimentary of Phil Spencer. I think he's been a good head of Microsoft, but that's not exactly one way you want to sell your product, by pretty much saying that unless you have this other obscenely expensive product, that our product is useless. That's not really a good way to sell your product. So by knowing that gives you a less of a reason to buy the Xbox Scorpio, especially if you already own an Xbox One or an Xbox One S. Because it's not going to have anything different than what you are, when it comes to games, than what you already own. And not only that, since this console is probably going to be really expensive, honestly, you're probably better off taking that money and putting it towards a gaming PC. Because if this console is going to launch at the $600, $700 range, that's a good price for a decent gaming PC. I mean, some people said you can even get it cheaper than that. I'm not a gaming PC expert, so I can't really say anything definitively. But from what I have seen so far, you could probably get a decent gaming PC for that price. Or you could take that money and then save up some additional money and get a really good one. Or an even better one. Especially since the Xbox no longer really has any exclusives. We can now officially say that because it was recently put out there that Halo 6 is going to be coming to PC. Because Halo 6, I think it's going to launch next year. That was literally the last Xbox exclusive. And notice I'm saying Xbox exclusive. It's still a Microsoft exclusive, but it's Xbox exclusive. Or it's not Xbox exclusive anymore. So the Xbox as a system, sorry for the little rambling there. The Xbox as a system, as a console, doesn't have any exclusives because you can get all of those games on a PC. All of them now. So honestly, what would you do? Get a gaming PC where you can play Xbox games and the PC games along with other things like mod support? Or just get an Xbox console where you just get the Xbox games and then you also have to pay an additional fee to play online multiplayer. What would you do? I would get the gaming PC, personally. So, alright, I think that's about it. I think I've covered everything. And like I said, I hate being this negative, but honestly, from what I know and what I think, I just don't think that the Xbox Scorpio is going to be that successful. Now, I could be wrong. I could be 100% wrong. And if I am wrong, when they reveal this console next year, I will come on this channel and say, you know, I was wrong. And I apologize. So, alright. Please let me know what you think about this video. And until next time, have a good one.